I don't really want to say what day it is. Today is October 31st, and I have not yet sat down to outline the book that I'm writing during the month of November. So, that's what I'm gonna do right now. I'm about to jump on a call with one of my writing friends so that we can hold each other accountable because she is also not outlined yet. We're gonna try and sit down and figure out what our stories are about, try to give some kind of framework for it. Yes, this is really last minute. I'm very aware. It's already 3:48 p.m. So it's like 8 hours until Nano actually starts. So this is important for me to do right now. In the past, the outlining method that I have found that works the best for me is the story gridding method, where basically you write down plot lines along the top or different characters and everything, and then chapters down one side. And then basically for each chapter, roughly where you want each character or plot line to be or where you want them to progress to. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that today or not. I am rewriting a book for Nano that had very little plot the first time I wrote it, which was back in high school. So what I'm going to start with today is just writing down general plot points that I want the story to hit. And then in that, I'm going to try and figure out any plot holes that were an issue with the first book, because again, it had very few plot lines, and the plot lines that it did have had a lot of plot holes in it. So I'm just going to try and see, probably writing out by hand those rough plot points first, and then we'll see after I do that whether or not I actually want to sit down to do the story gridding method. So with that, let's outline the book that I'm starting to write tomorrow, or maybe even after midnight tonight. I mean, I know that it's a dystopian. I don't know what age range I want it to be. I don't know if I want it to be YA or new adult, and I think that drastically changes it and what I could do with it.
Okay.
And so I really need to figure that out.
I love dystopian though.
Oh, I know. I'm so excited.
It's a great choice. Nice.
So I have to figure all that out.
So you're super well prepared, is what you're trying to tell me.
Oh yeah, so well prepared. I know everything.
Yeah.
I don't even know where to start with my outlining, other than maybe trying to figure out what I think I need to figure out what age group I'm going for first. I don't know, I want it to be new adult, but I think it makes more sense with the premise if it's YA, or if they're 18, but I don't know if 18 can count for new adult, or if that's the cutoff. Okay, I thought I'd written something in this notebook and I can't find it. Okay, I don't know. Well, that'll make it a little trickier if it's not in here, but that's fine. Okay, I just started a 30-minute sprint with my friend Brook, and I'm just gonna sit down and try to basically brain dump everything about the story down onto a sheet of paper. And that will include the plot points that I did when I reread the story. That will include other ideas that could happen within the story to get me to where I think the end of the story is, which I still need to kind of figure out. I need to figure out if this is gonna be a series or a standalone, and I need to figure out what age category this is going into, and whether or not I want this to be YA or new adult. I'm not sure I introduced myself. If not, hi, I'm Sara. My videos are not normally this chaotic, but I am going to be writing a book during the month of November for NaNoWriMo, which stands for National Novel Writing Month. And I have not outlined yet, but that's what I'm sitting down to do today. During this month, I'm going to be rewriting the book that I wrote in high school, which is a dystopian that was originally written as YA because I wrote it in high school during the big age of all of the dystopian novels. And I love the story so much. I love the characters so much. I had such a good time rereading the 70-ish thousand words that I had printed out from the first time I wrote the book back in high school, as well as reading through the 90-page note document a couple weeks ago. And so now I'm just gonna try and brain dump all of that information that I have now re-internalized back onto a sheet of paper and try to figure out some semblance of a plot, so that when I sit down to start writing, theoretically after midnight tonight for NaNoWriMo, I have a gist of where I'm going with my writing. Again, my videos are not normally this chaotic, but I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you do, I would really appreciate it if you could give it a big thumbs up, because that would really support my channel. And now without further ado, let's start outlining. So far, I've just been doing bullet points, and I took some time to write out the genre, some possible themes, the main characters, because I have already attempted to write this story. So I'm already fairly familiar with a lot of the characters and everything, which I think is really good. I am pretty solid on how the book starts, which is probably going to be the first 40, maybe 50 pages. And then we get into a more unclear territory of, I'm not really sure what happens. So that's the part I just hit. And with all my bullet points is okay, from here to here are bullet points. points on what happens in the beginning, and then I don't know how we get from that point to what then I know happens next. And this is why you don't plot the night before you have to start writing. And when I was rereading the draft that I wrote in high school, I think I remember just skipping over this part and just like leaving in a parentheses section of we need to get from point A to point B. And right now I'm struggling with how to figure that out, of how do we get from point A to point B, if even in the rough draft or what I currently have written and like what I wrote in high school, I didn't know then. And I think it's because there's not like a super obvious choice. And like there's options and stuff, but like I don't know which one is strong enough to actually get me to the next things that happen. And I also feel like maybe more character development needs to happen before then, which then means that I need to figure out some other like subplot line that would need to be added in for character development before we get to this. So maybe I'm just gonna leave a couple lines blank and then move on. And again, writing this down by hand is just me trying to process through some of these thoughts before I actually sit down and start like typing up something, probably in an Excel sheet. So this again is like primarily just a brain dump, but I would like to figure this out. So I now have roughly 2 loosely written pages, and I figured out what the catalyst could be. I kind of was brainstorming catalysts, and then I kind of wrote out a couple, and I actually think that I might end up using all of the catalysts because yes, they work together as a whole, but they also could work together for some subplots that I have not yet outlined, but I'm aware of that happen. And then how I just finished the end of this brainstorming portion was sitting down and figuring out what my overarching goals for the story are, and whether or not that fits into one book or if that's more of a series. And I do think it's more of a series. And so then I wrote down roughly where book 1 could begin and end, book 2 could begin and end, book 3 could begin and end, and book 3 is a little fuzzy, but I think I know where I roughly want book 3 to end. But the important part is that I know where book 1 ends, and it will kind of end with like a little bit of a change of heart, which I should write down because I did not yet. Change of heart and a mission, which could then inspire readers to want to read the second book when the second book comes out. So I think that that was beneficial for me to sit down and try to figure out what I'm trying to accomplish with this story as an overarching story, and whether or not that's in one book or multiple. And so now I have kind of outlined the beginning and roughly the middle, and now I need to figure out more of like the middle end and the end of this. But I would say that so far this is going well. I was kind of nervous to sit down today and try and figure this out just because it seems like a really big task, but it is going better than I was expecting it to. And it's starting to get me really excited to have some kind of overarching concept for the book that I'm starting to write in like almost 6 hours from now. This is going really well so far. I do have now a general gist of where the first book ends, and so now I'm just going to kind of work towards that point with, again, my outline bullet points. Yeah. The sun is quickly making its way down. It is now 6:11 p.m. Brooke and I talked for a little bit, and now we're doing one more sprint, hopefully the final sprint of at least the gist of plotting. I am starting to make dinner now and toasting a pancake to eat while I'm working on this. And let's try and finish out my outlining for Project LRF, at least book 1. Now that the sun is like completely down, I have pretty much finished the outlining process, which is awesome. I was really worried about it when I sat down to do this earlier. I was so happy that my friend Brook was available and wanted to help keep me accountable, as well as her working on some things. And I got pretty much everything outlined. The only thing that I am still kind of questioning is a character motivation and a catalyst for something that happens towards the end of the book, which, because it's towards the end of the book, I think I can just kind of start writing and then either pants that when I get there or figure it out along the way. I don't think that's something that I necessarily have to go into the book having known, because as I'm working on writing the book and as I'm working on writing that like middle to end portion, I think I'm going to figure out how I can make that transition. I hope that future me does not regret making that decision. But I also feel like character motivations and stuff, the one that I'm still waiting on to like come to my brain, is relatively not important for right this second. And as I'm writing, I do think that I'm going to have more ideas for that. So I think that I can totally figure that out later on, which means that this quick and dirty little outlining session actually went really, really well. And so now I have my 3 pages of outlining, and no, they're not complete pages or anything. I skipped some lines in there, but I have these 3 pages. I'm not sure if I'm gonna type them up or not, or if I just wanna leave them written down on paper, because then I can scribble in other things and I can like add and adjust and tweak, and like none of this is set in stone. It's just kind of something that I can start to follow along with, because I really don't identify as a plotter most of the time. I really identify more as like a pantser or like a headlights writer, where I know the gist of the story, I know roughly how I'm gonna write to the next scene, and then kind of like just keep writing and flying by the seat of my pants and just trying to figure out the story as I'm going. And I think that the only reason that I really wanted to plot this one is because I've already written it, or that I've already tried to write it, and it just had a couple issues and everything. So as I'm going, I will still have plenty of space within the story to be pantsing things about various characters, things about the main plot, some things about some subplots that I'm aware of but not totally sure about, and trying to incorporate some of the themes more that I outlined. I did decide that I want my characters to be about 18 years old, so it can be kind of on the cusp of either YA or new adult, and if this is going to be a series, then maybe it's like lower new adult, and I think that that's like very, very possible. And so I'm feeling really good about the things that I ended up outlining. I think I'm feeling really good about starting this tonight or tomorrow. I'm very happy that I finally did that. All right, I know that this video is a little bit more chaotic and a little bit less organized than my videos normally are, but I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you enjoyed seeing some of my process just in trying to answer various questions, trying to just basically do some bullet point outlining, and just trying to basically brain dump and brainstorm for some more ideas to figure out how to get from point A, aka the beginning of the book, to point Z, we'll call it, aka the end of the book, and then theoretically the end of books 2 and 3. However, I'm not outlining those books right now. I might make a video on that in the future, maybe after I start or finish writing book 1 of LRF. But with that, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate it if you could give it a big thumbs up, because that really supports my channel by telling the YouTube algorithm that you liked this video and that somebody else might too. If you want to follow along on my journey as I embark to writing 50,000 words or a novel or more than 50,000 words during the month of November, make sure you hit that big red subscribe button, because I'm currently posting 2 videos a week, typically on Mondays and Thursdays, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Sara Lubratt. Bye.